Hello, Robert. The Company You Keep is a novel by Neil Gordon, written in 2003. Making a movie about the people involved in the 70s war resistance and where they are now, was this a passion of yours, or did you just fall in love with the book? How did it come about?
Well, yes, I would say it's a passion because I think anything I do, I suspect other directors feel the same way. Anything you do is going to take your passion because it takes so much to do it. You know, it takes such a commitment of your time, your energy, your belief, your willingness to endure. I mean, it takes a lot out of you, so you have to be passionate about it. I don't think that makes me exclusive from other directors, but certainly it is with me. If I'm going to do a project, I know what it's going to take out of me and what time I think I need to give it. Sometimes that might be years. This was 4 years in the making. It took that long to reshape a book that was... The book was very broad and had many, many plot lines and many characters, and it had to be pushed, compressed into a shape for film. It took almost 4 years. So that takes a commitment and a passion. You must really want to tell this story in order to do it, so yes.
Did you know from the beginning that you wanted to play the role of Jim Grant and direct the movie?
Yes. I felt that as this thing was shaping up, particularly at this point in my life and my age, it was a wonderful part to play. A character who had had in his youth a different experience and had aged through that experience to a different place in his life where you can look back. You get to a point where you get old enough to have wisdom, and then you look back and you begin to put things together in the earlier part of your life that you didn't when you were young. Your passionate involvement in things that fell apart, and then you look back on it and say, oh, but you're also stuck, you're trapped with something that you committed to when you were young, and you changed your name to stay free of the law, underground. You've changed your life, but you're stuck with that part where you don't have your true name, and how long can you go like that? To me, that's where the story was most interesting.
There's a very visible generation gap between the character of Ben Shepherd and those of the former activists. What were your reasons for casting a very young talent against some of cinema's strongest veterans?
It does. It helped the story because Shia LaBeouf had to represent that distance between today and yesterday. Journalism yesterday, journalism today is very different. He had to represent journalism today. And also his story had to have enough complexity in it to where a character who starts off in a kind of ruthless pursuit, in a highly skilled pursuit of the truth, even at the point of stepping on people, getting there, slowly evolves to seeing things differently by the time he gets there. So in that sense, I felt this story was similar to Les Miserables, in that he is Inspector Javert who's pursuing Jean Valjean. Jean Valjean committed a crime when he's young, and he has to live with that. He had to take on a false identity to survive in time. He has a daughter and he lives a clean life, but he's stuck with that part of his past. And the inspector, or in this case the reporter, is pursuing that character of the past. And that makes it very complex when they finally come together, and I was excited by that.
What were your reasons behind casting a very young talent opposite some of cinema's most talented, strongest veterans?
That excited me because of the dynamic between the younger and the older. Because the older in this film were once young, just like these young people are today, and how change affects people. It will be very interesting, these younger people in the film, including the actors that played them. They're a certain place in their lives right now. Where are they going to be 30 years from now? How much will they change? That fascinates me. So you put those two together, those people who have experienced change and are at a point now where they can look back in time and maybe they can regret what they did, or maybe they are sad that the movement never succeeded, or they're still there. And the young people, you know, the difference between young and old and attitudes that changing times have forced on them is fascinating to me. If you could put that in the same film, that's what this story had.
What the hell is happening?
Evacuating the building.
It's a diversion. Lock down the building now. No one goes in or out.
I got him. Don't move. Hands in the air.
How did you become part of the company you keep? Did you get a call from Robert? How did it happen?
Yes, I got a call from Robert, and simultaneously the agent said, you know, he's interested in you, doing a movie. That was it.
In the film, you play Ray Fuller. Can you tell us about your character?
The character is a sort of last of a dying breed of newspapermen. He's a newspaper editor in Albany, which is not a huge newspaper, sort of smaller newspaper, but he's trying to keep this newspaper going, but also do right by his sort of young star reporter.
How much time did you spend at rehearsal?
Oh, not very long. Shai and I just worked for a little bit, for a day or two, because the scenes are very sort of clear and concise and condensed. So just a couple of days.
What was it like to work with Robert Redford as a director?
It was great. He was great. I mean, I've known him for a long time. He's a really, really nice guy. He's so smart, and I love his directing style, which is very relaxed and collaborative.
You've directed films yourself. If you could direct anyone you choose to, who would it be?
If I could direct anyone? Oh my God, there are so many people. Most of them are in this movie. Redford would certainly be one of them, yeah.
I don't want anything to do with this.
I need your help.
Where are you going?
I don't think he's running away. I think he's trying to clear his name.
Hello, Nick. In the company you keep, you play Donald. Can you please tell us a little bit about your character, and also how did you come to working in the film? Did you get a call from Robert Redford, or how did that work out?
Well, actually it came through my agency, CAA, and they said they had a Redford piece that he was thinking about doing, and he wants to know if you'd read the script. So I said, sure, I'd love to read it. And what came out was this Weather Underground piece about the 60s. And of course, that's my generation. And so I read this script, and it was a just marvelous script. So I called the agency and said, tell Mr. Redford, yes, I'd certainly love to do it. And then I got a call. Then they asked, would it be all right if Bob called you? And I said, sure, he can call me. And then Bob called me, and then I met with him. And from there, we had almost identical feelings about the piece and what it could cover, what it couldn't cover, and
Is this your first time working with Robert Redford, and what was the working relationship like?
Well, if you're going to be an actor and direct, you got to figure out a method. So I was very curious to see how he was going to deal with things. I guess the best example of it is there's a scene where he becomes paranoid when he's staying with Donald. Donald goes out to get him a car, but he's not sure. Maybe he's called the FBI or something. So he goes out the back, climbs over the fence, and runs down the alley. Well, we had discussed this running thing. Bob will ask me, how many push-ups do you do, or can you do this, or can you do that? And I just basically tell him, I don't do anything. I go like that in the morning 5 times. So we were at lunch, and I heard, as I was leaving lunch, I was going to my trailer, I heard, roll 'em, and I walked over to the alley, and they were shooting it. And I said, hey, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be driving that car. And all of a sudden, everybody disappeared. Bob was gone, and there were just 3 big guys standing in front of me. And they said, do you have a problem, Mr. Nolte? And I looked around and I said, no, not really, no problem whatsoever. So what it was, Bob wanted to do the running. He was only going to do it once. He wanted to make sure that the stunt man hit the mark. So we picked it up from there.
Now, this is an amazing story to tell, and you were a student around the time the story was set. And I read that you actually wanted to go to Vietnam yourself. Did you have friends who were activists? Did you resent that, wanting to go to war yourself and not being able to? And did the film feel like a personal story?
Where did you get that? That's got to be a plant by the FBI. It just has to be. No, I sold draft cards. I was a felon. I sold counterfeit government documents. And they nailed me in the 60s and gave me on 7 counts, they gave me times 7, $75,000 fine, times 5 years in jail, 7 times 5. It's at 45, right? So 45 years in jail. And they suspended it and put me under the Youth Correction Act, which means that essentially I'm not a felon, but if you go to Omaha and say, can I look at Nick Nolte's chart? You'll find it. You know, it's just like your mugshots never go away. So what that is a response to is once they charged me and once I was sentenced, they said, and by the way, you cannot join the military now.
Oh,
you can, and I said, oh, darn.
Oh.
Because, no, I didn't want to. I never wanted to kill anybody. I want to get through this life and not do it. Ever since a child, I thought that, you know. So that's just a reaction to them.
Oh, okay.
And they knew that. If it had happened 2 years later on, I'd probably still be in prison.